All right, check the mic. Instant reaction. We're live breaking down the 49ers win over the Carolina Panthers 20-9. Niners move to 8-4. Panthers fall to 6-6. Bit of an ugly game here, Sam. The first 19 pass attempts featured 4 interceptions, 3 from Brock Purdy. A little rough there in the early going, but the Niners settled in a little bit. No more turnovers from Purdy. They got Christian McCaffrey going. High volume game from McCaffrey. And Panthers just really couldn't get much going offensively.
Yeah, they really couldn't. I mean, there was 5 turnovers in the game, but then there were at least 2 more where the ball was put on the ground and the same team recovered it. Like fumble kickoff return to start the second half by Carolina. McCaffrey fumbled the ball, and 2 different Panthers managed to fail to fall on it before Colton McKivitz jumped on it. Like the first half was absolutely ridiculous in terms of turnovers. And like they weren't even like horrific throws by Brock Purdy. It was like slightly behind him, intercepted, slightly behind him, intercepted. And then the third one was like JC Horn went full Marcus Peters and just came from like another area code on the backside of the play and ripped in front of the pass and took it away.
Troy Aikman did a really good job breaking that down. He's like, look, I know it's basically saying it's a quick narrative. There's 3 interceptions in like 5 passes for Brock Purdy, so it's easy to pile on, but he's like, nobody sees what JC Horn, nobody sees him essentially robbing this pass over the middle. And your Marcus Peters reference, for those who weren't listening to us 8 to 10 years ago when Marcus Peters was playing in the NFL, doing that regularly, he'd be in man coverage and would just have this feel for when to just peel off his coverage. Like he would pick off these crossing routes that had nothing to do with his coverage, and we would look at it, be like, this isn't even on the quarterback. Like he should never be there. Great play by JC Horn, who ends up getting injured in the game as well, which hurt a bit for the Panthers. But Purdy had 3 interceptions, all in bunches, after a really good first drive where the Niners put 7 on the board. That continued to give the Panthers life, but they just couldn't do anything offensively to take advantage of it.
Yeah, they really couldn't. And that was, I mean, the Panthers remain this confusing team where last week makes no sense. Like, this is a standard Bryce Young game where he doesn't look amazing. He, puts up 170 yards. He puts up 1 touchdown. He has a couple of mistakes himself. And generally it feels like a bit of a struggle. And like, that's basically every week, except randomly last week, he went off for 450 yards. Like what?
Yeah, this is back to 5.8 yards per attempt. He's in that 5 to 6 yard range. Last week, I told you he's a vibes quarterback. You just saw it in his eyes last week, Sam. Vibes guy. I could see it early today. He didn't have it. Couple fidgety throws under pressure. And it started with the red zone, right? Like they had a chance. The Niners go down. By the way, took up about more than half of the first quarter, driving down, 15-play drive to score a touchdown. Panthers have a chance to answer. And Bryce Young, they go first down play action, bootleg, and he's just late to see it. The guy was open early. If he threw the ball right away, gets baited a little bit. J.R. Brown had one of his 2 interceptions, and it's in the end zone, just a backbreaker. Well, you felt like it was a backbreaker, but then the Panthers kept coming back with 3 interceptions of their own, giving the Panthers opportunities offensively. But that early interception just killed this Panthers offense.
I mean, I'm not even going to go all the way back, but let's say from week 7 onwards, right? Just listen to this sort of stat sequence from Bryce Young. 138 yards at 5.5 yards per attempt, 102 yards at 5.1 yards per attempt, 124 yards at 5 yards per attempt, 448 yards at 10 yards per attempt, and then this 169 yards at whatever that is, 5 point something yards per attempt.
He rolled 2.5 games into last week against Atlanta.
And that's against the Atlanta defense, which is way more like confusing and like difficult to decipher and has a better pass rush than this 49ers defense right now. It makes no sense.
Niners felt like they got a little bit more pressure than normal. I think they're at least exploding off the ball. And I don't know if there's something to that. I thought they did a nice job on the back end. Outside of Teteroa McMillan's 29-yard touchdown, they did a really nice job on him. And it was just ugly from Carolina. They didn't get the run game going. We know outside of last week, Carolina's games where they've had success, not only have they won the coin toss, but they've gotten the run game going. They've gotten Rico Dowdle going. Outside of a couple runs. Yeah, they haven't been able to. What?
This also ruins the coin toss sequence.
It does. It ruins the coin toss stats completely. So yeah, it was an ugly one. If you guys watched Monday Night Football with us, I love all football. It's all great, but it was ugly early on with all the picks back and forth. Like I said earlier, I think the Niners settled in a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if this is disastrous Brock Purdy right now. There might be something with his arm. He doesn't have I saw people talking about or responding to me saying, look, he already doesn't have a good arm, but if he's lost like just a couple RPMs off that, it's rough. Late floaters over the middle. All three were pretty much in between the numbers, and I think that's been the pattern for Purdy this year, even before the injury, the turf toe injury. The Seattle game earlier this year, he was late, blind spots over the middle, some wild decisions in the middle of the field. That's the part that he has to clean up. I don't know if it's anything physical, but even before the injury, he was pushing the ball maybe a little bit too much in the middle of the field.
They didn't feel late to me as much as just off target. Like they were
Yeah.
just the first two were just behind the receiver that he was aiming at. And the first one, behind him enabled JC Horn to make a break on it and just put the receiver Jennings in trouble. Second one, because it was behind him, it was like underthrow. He had so much space to the left because of the way that route developed. Like anywhere to the left, that guy, his receiver is favored to win the ball. Where he left it over to the right, the defender's back ends up being favored to win the ball. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that's an RPM thing, the turf toe affecting his follow through or whatever, and he's not able to step into it properly. But they honestly just felt like bad location, and you don't get that kind of margin for error in the NFL.
It could just be the accuracy too. It could just be you throw with your lower body, and if that's off a little bit, I mean, I don't think he's limping or anything like that. I don't think there's any visible issues. He had a couple scrambles that look pretty good. People forget. I like to remind people that Brock Purdy's a very good scrambler. He does have a very good feel for when to take off and getting just enough. Had a couple of those in there, but yeah, I mean, look, the Niners continue to survive. There's so many teams. I hate doing this as an analyst, Sam, because fans love to talk about how great their team is when they're winning games, and they deserve to be excited about wins. But there's so many teams where either saying, how do they do in this? Can they keep it up? Can they keep it up? The Niners have been like this all season, but if it's a loaded NFC West, if they really want to compete with the Rams and the Seahawks, Purdy absolutely needs to clean up his game. They have the weapons to do it on the outside too. Plus McCaffrey coming out of the backfield, but they can't win with all these turnovers against teams that aren't the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, generally San Francisco's defense is a problem. It was much better in this game, and that I think is going to be a story this season. Like they're going to lurch between these games where they just get wrecked by people, and then you're going to get another game like this where it's like, wow, look what Robert Saleh's doing. He's making magic happen with this bunch of no names, and it's going to go back and forth between the two. And I think it's going to be a lot to do with who they're playing on opposition. But the offense should be able to get it to work against pretty much everybody, but they have to play clean football because the defense isn't going to be good enough against those other teams. So, they can win a lot of games. I mean, they're 8-4 now. They can be a playoff team. They can be in contention, but they're going to have to look like kind of last year's Bengals, right? It's the offense is going to have to be really good and not turn the ball over, and then hope that the defense has either, one of their better games or that they can just cling in and, hang in the game enough that the offense is able to cook. They can't go out there and turn the ball over 3 times and almost turn it over a 4th time. And like against a team that isn't Carolina, that's going to be a problem.
And if Purdy keeps doing that, you'll hear more of Mac Jones was playing better. And there's some truth to Mac Jones was running the offense extremely well. And you brought up the point, in a vacuum, do you and I both think that Brock Purdy is better and has played better football than Mac Jones more often than not? Yes. But if the injury is affecting things and if he's putting the ball in harm's way, either because of the injury or because he's in a slump or he's off or he's not handling the pressure, who knows, whatever it might be, is there a call to actually be made in the next week or two where Mac Jones is the better player? Or is that all off the table? I mean, I don't think it's going to happen in practice this week, but if there's, 2 or 3 more passes right to the defense, Kyle Shanahan's got something to think about in the next couple of weeks here.
And this is the thing, it kind of got hidden a little bit because against his first game back, he had, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, but he had a couple of turnover worthy plays in there as well. Brock Purdy, didn't put up a ton of yardage or anything. So I think, and before he got hurt, week 1, the first couple of weeks of the season, he'd put the ball in harm's way a bunch. So I think there's an argument that like Mac Jones is playing pretty damn well. I mean, they've done it already, so it's kind of too late for that. But I think there was a pretty compelling argument that like Mac Jones is playing pretty well in this job right now, and Brock Purdy hasn't been playing well before he got hurt and is now coming back with this toe injury that does affect quarterbacks, maybe we don't rock the ship and just, leave it. But they didn't. They put him in. He played. The numbers look great week 1 when he came back. The numbers didn't look great this week, but he won the game. It's kind of an awkward spot for them to be in.
On the other hand, you mentioned all the Bryce Young inconsistency, 2 more interceptions, second one over the middle of the field. I see some questions about a potential misholding on that. I didn't go back and look at that. I didn't see it closely, but it was that classic early career Bryce Young over the middle interception, throwing it blind, which you have to do when you throw over the middle, but a little in front, or maybe McMillan was slowed up a little bit, but 2 interceptions. Good.
Yeah, he was definitely impeded a little bit. I'm not sure it would have saved the throw. I mean, the safety's breaking on it anyway. Like, I think it might have turned, like when you watch that kind of end zone camera, you see a safety catching the ball and Tedero McMillan's like hand entering the shot, trying to break it up. It might have turned that into just a full-on collision, but it wouldn't have been a good throw, whatever happened with the contact.
And if it's a missed call, it's a missed call. Obviously, it saves the interception, but the throws over the middle for Bryce Young have been an issue at various points. But more importantly, just snap for snap, you can't have an offense that averages 5 to 6 yards per attempt. You just can't do that week after week. And it wasn't even like a turn the corner game last week. It was like, all right, flat, maybe the best game of Bryce Young's career, throw for throw, flashes of what he did last year. Last year, he had done this at various points.
Yeah.
And then it's back to same old Bryce Young in a game that we keep saying, like, it's not a great pass rush. They're feisty defensively in the secondary. They'll play some tough man coverage. There'll be some tighter windows, but still there should be some plays to be made. And you just got no rhythm on that side.
Yeah, that's the thing. This was a defense that you should be able to attack this defense. He had his full complement of receivers effectively, Tedero, McMillan, and it wasn't all Bryce Young. McMillan drops a pass on 3rd and 2. That's, forces a punt. Like, Xavier Leggett steps out of bounds randomly on the sideline when he was going to catch. Like, other people screwed up as well. But, Bryce Young had the full complement of receivers effectively to work with. He had both the running backs out of the backfield. Like, this 49ers defense is not good with none of their good players remaining. You should have been able to have success. And I guess you also, the Panthers offensive line got a little bit banged up as well. But, like, that's a disappointingly bad performance for an offense that should have been able to have success tonight.
Yeah. What was the other? I was going to add something else. I had no more value to add. A tough one for the Panthers. And as you said, continued confusion. Now, every power ranking is going to have the Rams next week at number 1. And they're playing the Rams. And I predict the Panthers win 11-7 next week against the Rams. That's my early prediction. Don't hold me to it, but my early prediction for Sunday, 11-7, Panthers win. Rico Dowdle with 290 rushing yards, but they only score 11 points. Does that sound like the Panthers?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they're 6-6 now. I have no earthly idea. They're still the most confusing team in the NFL to me. The 2 most confusing teams in the NFL are still the Falcons and the Panthers. 2 of the Panthers' wins are against the Falcons, who I think are a better football team, and it doesn't make any sense. They've also beaten the Packers, which makes no sense whatsoever. Then you think, oh, it's okay. They show up. They put on their A game against the best opponents, but they got absolutely shellacked by Buffalo. So that doesn't make any sense either. Like, it seems to just be like a Wheel of Fortune randomizer, what kind of Panthers performance you're going to get.
None of it makes sense. The thing I was going to add was Xavier Leggett's sideline awareness has been lacking for 2 years now. Stepped out, came back and whatever. He gets forced out on the route, but there's a lot of times he's, unable to get 2 feet in along the sideline. That was a big play as well in the comeback attempt for the Panthers.
I will say, I think there's probably something to what Troy Aikman was insisting on throughout the game, and everyone was trying to talk him down from that the Panthers, they need a favorable game script situation to be winning games. Like, a lot of those losses, one of the common threads is they turn the ball over early and they get in a hole and then they can't come out of that hole.
Every game.
Right. And Joe Buck was like, yeah, but they've come back here and here. And Aikman was like, yeah, but look, they can't. They're not built for that. I know they put up 450 yards last week, but this is not what this team does. And I think he's right. Like, when they get in a hole early, it's just not, they don't get, whether it's your vibes thing and the headspace and Bryce Young just starts looking sad, or whether it's that they're just not built from a passing offense point of view to execute that kind of game plan. They need to have success early, I think, and at least be in the game and have it competitive and close, halftime early in the otherwise things just seem to fall apart.
Week 1, Jags. Week 2, Cardinals. Early turnovers in both games. Cardinals, they kind of made it a game, but it was way too late. Loss at New England. I think it was Dalton under center. Early, turnovers. Buffalo game, tons of turnovers in that one. That was Dalton, right? Maybe it was Bryce and the Patriots. I forget offhand. Saints, 17-7 game, turnovers in the red zone, and just weird stuff happened in that game. And then tonight, it's literally every single loss. You could look to something in the first half where they're just playing. It's just bad ball in the first half. And then in other games, Packers, right? It's just like perfect game script to just keep it close, and find a way to win in the end. So again, 11-7 next week against the Rams is what we're expecting.
People are going to be so mad if the team that everyone has just roundly accepted as being the best team in the NFL, because the last thing we saw in prime time was them looking great. If they get beaten by the Panthers, everyone's brain's going to explode because no one's going to know what to do with that.
And because since week 7, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Big pattern team. They just broke the pattern of the coin flips, though. So maybe
you got to get back to the next one is just going to be alternating wins and losses.
So the Bucks, what does it mean? Bucks also hang in first place now in the NFC South. Don't forget these two teams still play each other twice, right? They play, one of those week 16 and week 18, 2 out of the last 3 weeks of the season. We'll still see Bucks and Panthers. Baker Mayfield injured. They don't think it's going to be more than a week, probably. He still could play this week, so we'll see what happens there.
I ran through I just put in the game, randomly went through and picked games for the last few weeks of the season for the ESPN playoff predictor machine thing. The division may legitimately come down to those two. Like if Carolina sweeps Tampa Bay, they could win the division still, because even if they lose to the Rams, lose to the Seahawks, I mean, I said you would assume they can beat the Saints, but they've already lost to them this season. But if they beat the 3 teams in their division, the Saints and then the Bucks twice, even getting wrecked by the Rams and the Seahawks, they could end up sneaking that division. I also think whether or not Baker Mayfield plays it's not less important, but I think there's 2 elements to that. There's when does he play? And then there's when he plays, what does he look like? Because we've seen that before. Baker comes back, plays with a shoulder injury in his non-throwing shoulder, and plays like crap. So that's a secondary concern here. Like, okay, I'm interested when Baker's, going to be starting, but I'm also interested for let's watch that game and find out what kind of Baker we get.
We'll break it all down Wednesday because we don't have our normal Wednesday show. Wednesday show turns into week 13 preview, Thanksgiving games, full slate. But yeah, the Baker Mayfield thing, so much of his success, not just this year, but even the last couple of years with Tampa Bay, has been scrambling, lowering his shoulder when he needs to, picking up key yards on the ground, hanging in the pocket under pressure, and making big-time throws. If Baker's missing any of that, or if that affects his accuracy, I know it's the non-throwing shoulder, but like you said, that was his entire 2021 season. We were sitting here scratching our head saying, it's year 4. Where's this big step forward? I know he's playing through injury, but is it going to affect his passing this much, even though it's the non-throwing shoulder? And it did. And it cost him basically his job with the Cleveland Browns.
And also how much of his success this year has been predicated off scrambling. Like if he can't scramble anymore, if you're like Baker, you can't take a hit. Your shoulder is being held together with a brace, right? You can't launch yourself into a linebacker on 3rd and 8 because you think you can pick up the first down like that. Yeah. Even if he's capable of doing that, and I have some questions about whether he is, like even if he's capable, you take a huge string, a huge quiver. What's the phrase I'm looking for? Take a huge string off his bow, asking him to not do that. That's like a huge part of what Baker Mayfield brings to the table.
We'll try to. We got questions for the shouty shows and the bugler. Maybe we'll weave it into the preview. Maybe we'll weave in a little bugler. We'll weave in a little shouty show. We'll just do a monster 6-hour show on Wednesday for the people.
Somebody remind me to bring the hat in. Bring the hat.
Yeah, bring the hat, especially for next week when the bugler is officially back. But we'll try to. It's Shedeur Sanders week, and he's officially been named the starter for next week against these 49ers. in Cleveland. So we will probably have we'll have something, right? We'll have some Shedeur takes. People have been parachuting in with Shedeur takes all day. I can't wait to hear what they are on Wednesday. So we'll see everybody Wednesday morning. It's 9 a.m., our week 13 preview. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Check the mic. See you Wednesday.